Okay. Semifinals. We have Dejan Favilla versus Renny Payumo. Both players really good, actually. Some of the best we have here in the Philippines. And what a treat it is once again to watch these two fight it out. So a quick recap here. Renny is running a very solid Trick Room team with a Chlorophyll Vileplume that does have After You if it needs to go with the Torkoal outside of Trick Room. On the other hand, Dejan has a very familiar team to us all. It is the Charizard Eternal Flower Floette combo with its best friends, Whimsicott, King Gambit, Basculation, and Garchomp. All of these Pokemon meld well together to form somewhat of a balanced, extremely aggressive core. On the other hand, Renny does have the Staraptor with Choice Scarf and Final Gambit in case he has to run into another Staraptor that is a Mega. The funniest thing is, the best counter to Staraptor is Staraptor itself. Not gonna blab too much, the game is starting. Renny will be leading with Farigiraf and Scrafty here, and Dejan will be leading with his own Charizard, and what a little Charizard that is actually, with his Charizard and Whimsicott. I do not think this Whimsicott exactly wants to be in a position where it will, Tailwind, just because the Farigiraf can very steadily just go for the Trick Room here, while Thunderbolt will be threatening into the Charizard. The bigger issue here will be the Trick Room. Fake Out pressure is on Renny's side, but yes, Dejan will be Mega Evolving his Charizard into Mega Charizard Y. Literally no reason not to at this point. He needs to do as much damage before the Trick Room goes up. And yeah, Fake Out will be coming from the Scrafty into the Whimsicott. And the flinch goes. But Heat Wave will be coming from Dejan's Charizard. Not enough to knock out either Scrafty or Farigiraf. Now Trick Room will finally be coming up for Renny's side. Or well, actually Trick Room is up for everyone here. There's enough to go around. Harsh Sunlight and Trick Room are now hand in hand at 4 turns apiece. Now, Encore can be done into this Farigiraf, which would be a very funny interaction, where this Farigiraf will be forced to once again go for Trick Room. But if it goes for a Protect this turn, Whimsicott can also go for an Encore once again into it the turn after, provided it survives the next hit. Scrafty though, not exactly has no effective moves against either of these. Close Combat, Drain Punch, and Knockoff will not be effective against Whimsicott, but that won't matter because Whimsicott is protecting itself as well as this Farigiraf. Actually, this Charizard as well is protecting itself. Everyone's protecting themselves this turn. And Scrafty will use Knockoff into the Charizard, and it just hits into that Protect. 3 turns of Trick Room left as well as Sun. Now again, Scrafty doesn't exactly have the ability to do damage to either of these Pokemon except for that Knockoff, and while it is the fastest thing on the field, the Whimsicott on the opposing side of the field in Dejan's side still has the power to Encore the Farigiraf into protecting itself over and over, but there will be no Protect here. Thunderbolt goes into the Charizard, doubled up from the Knockoff earlier as well, and Charizard will be using Heat Wave, knocking out both Farigiraf and Scrafty. This Whimsicott will most likely be using Moonblast, but there's no target to hit anyway, so that's fair. It can't exactly use Tailwind either. 2 turns remain of both Trick Room and the Sun. No choice here on Renny's side. He has to bring out his Torkoal and his Mawile. Mawile can Mega Evolve and just knock out Whimsicott here, and Torkoal can do some very, very Torkoal things. Eruption on Torkoal is still a major threat, while it's not as dangerous as it once used to be due to there being no choice specs. Charcoal boosted Eruption still does a very big amount of damage. And yeah, we will be seeing this Mawile Mega Evolve. Okay, the Whimsicott is protecting itself. And so is the Charizard, both of the Pokemon stalling out the last 2 turns of Trick Room here. Torkoal going for that Eruption, successfully hitting nothing. Mawile also goes for a Rock Slide, but both Pokemon on Dejan's side are protected. Both players are actually making their turns pretty quickly, selecting their moves. This is again the last turn of Trick Room and the very last turn of Sunlight. So this Torkoal will not be able to do as much damage the turn after, but Mawile is still very much a problem here. While the Trick Room, this is the last turn of Trick Room, I don't think either of these Pokemon want to get hit by an Eruption. I don't think any Pokemon in the back of the John's side wants to especially get hit by Trick Room, even if it was the Garchomp. But yeah, Encore will be coming from that Whimsicott, ensuring that this Mawile will not be able to use Play Rough into that Garchomp. Eruption, though, manages to just do so much damage. Knocks out the Whimsicott and brings this Garchomp down to yellow health. Mawile forced to use Rock Slide, no choice there. It no longer has access to the Sucker Punch and no longer has access to Play Rough or Protect. The dimensions have returned to normal. The sun has gone. But this Charizard can easily come in, and this Mawile is kind of a sitting duck. There's not much it can do since it's forced to use Rock Slide. But if this Charizard were to use Heat Wave here and miss the Mawile, that might be its only saving grace here. Renny's gonna have to hope that this Heat Wave, if it is a Heat Wave, will miss. But no, it doesn't even come to that. Earthquake from the Garchomp is super effective against both Mawile and Torkoal. And yeah, the Heat Wave will not be missing, and it will be taking out the Mawile. It was in fact enough. Torkoal, though, well, with the sun, I believe it will be attempting to go for a Heat Wave. Yes, it does also retaliate with its own Heat Wave, but does not even successfully take out the Charizard. Why? Garchomp goes down, but Charizard still hangs on with 2% HP. The final Pokemon on the John side will be Baby Blue, the King Gambit. Ripe for the sucker punching this Torkoal will be. Seeing as there was no other out there, Renny will concede Game 1. Dejan takes it, and we will be going into Game 2. Alright, here we are in Game 2 of this heated match. I wanted to say heated rivalry there, but that would appear less fun. Anyway, yeah, both of these players did match up in a previous midweek Smoke Grand Finals, and that time Renny took it, but this time it appears that Dejan has learned a few tricks up his sleeve, has taken Game 1. Renny, though, I'm sure he can think of 1 or 2 adjustments to take out this team. That Charizard and the way that Dejan just managed to pivot around all of the Trick Room was commendable, to say the least. And yeah, Renny will be leading the exact same way, though. The Furigiraffe and the Whimsicott, the Scrafty, and in fact, Dejan will also be leading the same way. We are going to see a repeat of Game 1's leads. Scrafty, though, as we saw earlier, just does not threaten either of these Pokemon. Yeah. Dejan will be Mega Evolving his Charizard here, turn 1. Again, no reason not to. The extra power from the Heat Wave just goes such a long way. Fake Out will be going into the Charizard instead of the Whimsicott this time around though. And Moonblast will be hitting that Scrafty dead on, knocking it out in one go. I want to say one hit KO, but it took some chip damage, not that it mattered all too much. And yes, we will be seeing the Trick Room go up for Renny. Now the real question is, who is in the back? Okay, it is the Torkoal. Did we ever have any doubt? Nepo Baby, the Whimsicott, is again still wearing a Focus Sash. Equipped with a Focus Sash, it is still in a pretty good position to just do what it wants for now, so long as it doesn't get targeted twice. This Torkoal though can target both the Charizard and the Whimsicott. And with the Trick Room up, again with the same ticks as the Harsh Sunlight, it will be able to go first and it will be able to launch devastating eruptions. But yeah, this Whimsicott, just like a repeat of game 1, will be protecting itself. And yeah, the Charizard as well will be protecting itself, stalling out these Trick Room turns to the best they can. Eruption and Psychic come from Renny's side of the field, but no, those just ping off. There's really no damage going in there because of those protects. Trick Room and Sun still up. Renny is not out of this yet. That Torkoal is in a commanding position to just again erupt. It is a little volcano in and of itself. The comments on the chat here, overheated rivalry, right? So yeah, this Whimsicott will be returning into its Pokeball, but oh, this King Gambit, it will be consuming its Oka Berry, but in the Sun eruption, will this be enough to survive? Yes, it is. Not very effective on the Charizard there, but Psychic will be hitting that Charizard. Still not enough to take it out. This Charizard is actually quite bulky. Heat Wave coming from the Charizard deals about 40% into the Torkoal and even more into the Farigiraf, bringing the Farigiraf down to force it to eat its Citrus Berry. Again, 2 more turns of Trick Room here, but this King Gambit is not able to use Sucker Punch due to the Armor Tail that is active on this Farigiraf. Baby Blue, the King Gambit, will instead go for a Protect on this second to the last turn of Trick Room. Both of the Pokemon on the Dejan side of the field will be fielding away with just one more. They just need to field one more turn in order to survive this Trick Room onslaught. Heat Wave coming from the Torkoal and the Psychic from the Farigiraf will not be... Okay. There was a bit of an error there. Yeah, so both of these Pokemon will not be able to do any damage there, but the Whimsicott will in fact be coming in place of the Charizard. Heat Wave coming from the Torkoal will knock out this King Gambit and bring down the Whimsicott down to its Focus Sash. If this Farigiraf went for a Psychic, and it truly did, it will be knocking out this Whimsicott and this King Gambit, resulting in that double KO of a turn. Okay. So now, the Sun will return, but we will also find out who the very last Pokemon on Dejan's side of the field will be. And it is the Garchomp, of course. So as the Harsh Sunlight goes up, this Garchomp is in a very good position to just run away with Earthquake. This Garchomp, however, does not have Protect. This Farigiraf also probably just wants to set up Trick Room once more though. But, seeing as it can probably still do that in the next turn, protects itself. Earthquake will be coming from the Garchomp, knocking this Torkoal down to its knees and probably sending it back into its Pokeball. Probably. It survives with just 1%. Weather Ball, however, will be hitting the Farigiraf. This Torkoal successfully manages a Heat Wave, takes out the Charizard, brings the Garchomp down to 57% critical hit. That was a heck of a turn for Renny. And to make matters worse, Dejan's Garchomp is now burnt. It no longer has as much damage and we will see the instant forfeit. Renny will be taking game 2 and we are going into game 3. A heck of a midnight match we've got here. Game 3 for the semifinals. Not much to say here other than I still want to know what kind of adjustments both players are going to do. We are set. Game 3. Renny will be leading with Staraptor and Farigiraf, this time no longer leading that Scrafty. The thing is, does this Charizard have enough HP to survive a final Gambit? Now, the Whimsicott can just go for the Tailwind and damage here, but if it does go for the Tailwind and successfully gets it up, this Farigiraf can also get the Trick Room up. Is it going to be worth it though? Oh, the threat on Renny's side, bringing the Staraptor in the lead, is just incredible. Dejan can't really afford to protect here. He has to go on the offensive. Charizard can attack into the Staraptor, but if Tailwind doesn't go up, the Staraptor might just be taking him with it. So Protect will be coming up from the Whimsicott. And Protect will be coming up from the Charizard. Okay, he has gone for both of the Protects here. Final Gambit from the Staraptor though. And Trick Room will be going up. This Staraptor is now not in a very good position. Fantastic adjustment from Dejan, forcing the Trick Room up, but then this Staraptor is now the slowest thing in the field. It probably really doesn't want to have its final Gambit do very little, but it is what it is, I suppose. And yeah, 21 just does 79% there, and the Moonblast will also be going into the Staraptor. I guess there's no more point in that slot being there. Renny sacrifices the Staraptor, not wanting to keep it in. Perhaps that was the only intent it needed, and since it failed its job, it just didn't have any value going forward. But Mawile will be coming out, threatening this Charizard very, very badly with that Rock Slide. 3 turns of Trick Room left. Of course, now that it's an odd turn, Dejan can protect this turn, attack the next one, and then protect once more just to stall out the Trick Room completely. Mawile will be Mega Evolving for Renny here. And yeah, like I said, they can just protect this turn to stall out the Trick Room once more. Yeah, both Charizard and Whimsicott are in fact just going for those protects. Rock Slide coming from the Mawile. This Mawile has 1 turn to get this Rock Slide through. And I believe, yeah, the Psychic will be going into the Whimsicott just to take it out. Renny confident that this Mawile can one-hit KO this Charizard with Rock Slide. It is a Charizard after all, and it is allergic to stones. So again, this Dejan's probably gonna have to take a hit this turn, or he's probably gonna have to switch out that Charizard. It's in such a difficult position. And he does actually switch it out. Mawile will be going for a play rough there, successfully predicting that switch. Thunderbolt also going into the King Gambit slot. Will it be enough? No, it is not. But it is in fact enough to knock it into paralysis. Moonblast hitting the Farigiraf from the Whimsicott does a respectable amount of damage. You really can't underestimate the amount of damage Whimsicott does despite being a very prominent support Pokemon. It still has the capability to do so much damage. Farigiraf a little worse for wear, but this is in fact the last turn of Trick Room. Mawile will be protecting itself, and so will Farigiraf. I wager that Baby Blue, the King Gambit, would want to take out the Farigiraf as much as possible, but instead, Dejan knocks out his own King Gambit in order to allow the Charizard to come in? Was that a misclick? Was that a tactical move? I'm not quite sure. But perhaps it was in order to make sure that the Sun came in successfully. Side targeting into your own King Gambit there in order to force this Charizard to come in without any issues. After this Protect, this Mawile... Oh, okay. It's swapped out. Okay, Torkoal has taken the place of the Mawile here. Moonblast will be hitting the Farigiraf once more, and this Charizard is free to do any attack it wants. And I wager it is going to go for a Weather Ball. No, it goes for a Heat Wave, and it is not enough to take out Farigiraf. Farigiraf will once again be able to set up the Trick Room. But this Torkoal has been damaged. It is not able to launch maximum power eruptions here, but it will still have that boost to its Heat Wave. This Farigiraf, on the other hand, does not have Helping Hand, so it cannot power up the power of this Torkoal, but I don't think it needs it so much. The Whimsicott and the Charizard will once again be going for Protect, stalling out this Trick Room once more. Dejan just very calculated with how he's handling this, dismantling the Trick Room here. Incredible, actually. But yeah, Renny is still in a pretty commanding position because the Trick Room is still up. His Farigiraf is still up. 4%, definitely more than 0%. Mawile is still in the back. And this turn, Dejan's gonna have to either switch or he's gonna have to attack. But I don't think there's enough damage or firepower on Renny's side to take out the Charizard here, but there will be enough to take out the Whimsicott. Eruption brings it down to its Focus Sash, and Psychic enough to actually knock it out. Charizard will be going for Heat Wave, not enough to take out the Torkoal, but still, what an incredible amount of damage. This Charizard can just do so much. Knocks out the Farigiraf, which is already on its last legs, and we will be seeing Mawile come back out for Renny. And the very last Pokemon that is on Dejan's side of the field will be this Garchomp, which, as we saw before, is very capable of knocking out both of the Pokemon on Renny's side of the field with Earthquake. But something we have to note, this Garchomp does not have Protect. Weather Ball will be hitting into the Garchomp here, and I believe this will be a play rough. No, it is Rock Slide. Renny not taking any chances here. Smacks directly into the Garchomp and the Charizard itself. On the off chance the Charizard would not protect, this Garchomp though will be using Earthquake. Does very good damage into the Mawile, but something we have to really note here is, while this Mawile has the capability to just KO this Garchomp outright, and this Mawile on this very last turn of Trick Room. If the play rough will miss, Dejan can take the game. The Roselli Berry, will this be enough? And it in fact is. Renny will be taking game 3. What an incredible match.